Hold up, did Joe Rogan and Candace Owens just team up to expose Charlie Kirk's widow, Erika Kirk? Because this isn't your usual podcast chatter. This feels like the political version of a Netflix thriller. One minute, it's all sympathy and tributes. The next, it's secret messages, deleted footage, and accusations that have the internet losing its mind. So, buckle up, because what started as a tragedy just turned into a scandal. The podcast that sparked it all. Joe Rogan didn't just drop a comment, he dropped a cultural grenade. It all began with a single offhand remark during his podcast that no one saw coming. Between the laughs, tangents, and casual chaos of conversation, Rogan suddenly shifted gears and mentioned something off about the late Charlie Kirk's widow, Erika. His tone wasn't the usual sarcastic jab, it was quiet, deliberate, almost too careful. Like he knew he was about to set the internet on fire. Within minutes, that clip went viral across X, TikTok, and YouTube, spreading faster than a conspiracy on Reddit. People froze mid-scroll, replayed the clip, zoomed in on Rogan's expression, and tried to decode what he really meant. Was he hinting at a secret relationship, a political cover-up, or something darker? Comment sections exploded like popcorn, half the internet claiming Rogan knew too much, the other half accusing him of stirring the pot on purpose. But here's the thing, Joe didn't clarify a thing, not a tweet, not a statement, not a hint. And that silence, it spoke louder than any headline, because in a world obsessed with proof, Rogan's pause became the story. And that's how one unscripted sentence from a podcast turned into a digital wildfire that no one, not even Rogan himself, could put out. If Rogan was the spark, Owens was the gasoline. And what came next turned this story into a wildfire. The timeline twist. What really sent the internet into overdrive wasn't just what Joe Rogan said, it was when he said it. The so-called timeline twist started when fans began connecting dots that were never meant to touch. Rogan's cryptic comment dropped just days after a private Turning Point USA board meeting where Erika Kirk, Charlie's widow, was quietly confirmed as the organization's new figurehead. That coincidence alone was enough to spark suspicion. But then sleuths noticed something else. Rogan had actually recorded that podcast 2 weeks before Charlie's memorial, meaning he might have known something the public didn't. Suddenly, everyone was combing through timestamps, leaked schedules, and interview dates, trying to decode whether Rogan's offhand remark was really an inside reference. Reddit threads became digital corkboards. YouTubers drew timelines like detectives in a Netflix docuseries, and one viral post summed it up perfectly. If Rogan knew early, that means this story's not breaking, it's unraveling. The timeline stopped being a detail, it became a smoking gun, because if Rogan's words lined up with events that hadn't happened yet, that meant he wasn't reacting to news, he was foreshadowing it. And that idea that Joe Rogan might have been ahead of the curve in a saga full of silence, secrets, and sudden promotions turned the timeline itself into a conspiracy, one that blurred the line between coincidence and coordination. Because when Candace hints, the internet investigates, and this time they found more than sympathy posts, the deleted video. When the deleted video entered the picture, the story went from controversial to cinematic. It began with a short 20-second clip that briefly appeared on an obscure YouTube channel before disappearing faster than it spread. In that clip, recorded from what looked like a phone screen during a live stream, you could see Joe Rogan pause mid-conversation, glance off camera, and mutter, "That part wasn't supposed to air." Then before anyone could analyze it, the episode vanished from Rogan's official library. Within hours, fans were convinced they'd stumbled upon something explosive, a segment that hinted at private messages between Rogan and someone close to the Kirk situation. The clip's takedown only fueled the flames. Reddit threads exploded with speculation that Spotify had stepped in, while others swore the order came from higher up. Grainy re-uploads, reaction videos, and freeze-frame analyses took over TikTok, each claiming to have spotted hidden references in Rogan's micro-expressions or the faint reflection in his studio monitor. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't about what Rogan said, it was about what someone didn't want us to hear. But what made the deleted video truly viral wasn't just its disappearance, it was the timing. The clip vanished hours after Erika Kirk posted what fans dubbed the quiet caption, a cryptic Bible verse about truth being revealed in its season. To the internet, that was all the confirmation they needed. Two unrelated actions stitched together into a digital prophecy. Commentators, conspiracy channels, and even mainstream gossip pages jumped in, calling it the Rogan Redact. Theories multiplied. Was Rogan protecting Erika, exposing her, or had he been warned off? Some claimed the missing segment included a reference to private recordings of Charlie Kirk's last days, a claim no one could prove, yet everyone repeated. The longer the clip stayed gone, the bigger it grew in myth. By the end of the week, people weren't even sure the video ever existed in full, but that didn't matter. The idea of it was enough. In the modern rumor economy, deletion equals validation, and in that silence, the narrative took on a life of its own, a ghost file that became the heartbeat of the entire scandal, proving once again that on the internet, what vanishes fastest spreads farthest. And that's when people realized this wasn't just about a widow, it was about a brand. The turning point power move. The turning point power move wasn't just a twist in the story, it was the moment the entire narrative flipped from tragedy to political theater. In the weeks following Charlie Kirk's death, when the nation was still processing the shock, Turning Point USA quietly made its most controversial decision yet, appointing Erika Kirk, his widow, as the new CEO. What looked at first like a symbolic act of legacy soon began to feel more like a strategic coup. The timing was too clean, the optics too sharp. Erika stepped into her husband's role almost seamlessly, dressed in black, her voice trembling just enough to sound heartfelt but steady enough to command a crowd. When she walked on stage at her first major event, cameras captured what felt less like a eulogy and more like a coronation. She wasn't speaking for Charlie anymore. She was speaking as the continuation of him. Supporters called it destiny. Critics called it design. The phrase turning point power move started trending within hours, fueled by Rogan's earlier hints that someone's rise had been perfectly staged. Suddenly, everything, from her speeches to her photo ops with high-ranking conservatives, was being dissected as evidence of a calculated transition. Even Joe Rogan's followers began calling it the smoothest power grab in recent conservative history, arguing that grief had been weaponized into influence. And whether Erika planned it or not, one truth was undeniable. The woman who began as the mourning widow had become the movement's most polarizing new power player, standing at the intersection of sympathy and strategy, where legacy meets ambition, and tragedy quietly turns into opportunity. But then came the twist that no one expected. The Trump connection? The Trump connection wasn't just a subplot, it became the spine of the entire story. Long before the whispers, before Joe Rogan's eyebrow-raising commentary, and before Erika Kirk stood under the Turning Point spotlight, there was already a history, one dripping in pageant lights and political power. Years before she became Charlie Kirk's widow, Erika wasn't known for her activism. She was known for her beauty. As Erika France, she was a Miss Arizona USA contestant competing under the ownership of none other than Donald Trump. That's where the breadcrumbs begin. Photos from the early 2010s show her in the same glittering ballrooms where Trump was famously hands-on, literally and figuratively, with the contestants, often deciding who advanced, who got screen time, and who had the right look. Fast forward a decade, and Erika's reappearance in Trump's orbit felt too coincidental for comfort. The memorial hug seen around the internet, that long, slow embrace where Trump whispered something in her ear, wasn't just viewed as comfort anymore. It was interpreted as a signal. Commentators called it the power handshake in disguise, a symbolic passing of the conservative torch from mentor to protege. From there, the narrative exploded. Rogan's fans suggested that Trump had been grooming Erika as a new face of his movement, a more polished, sympathetic figure who could bridge faith, feminism, and far-right populism all in one. Every new public appearance, her introducing Trump at events, her mirroring his speech cadence, her sudden rise within the conservative elite, became more fuel for the theory that this wasn't grief's aftershock, it was Trump's long game. Whether it was mentorship, manipulation, or mutual benefit, the optics were undeniable. Erika's tragedy had placed her perfectly in Trump's political frame, and from the outside looking in, it seemed like the widow of a fallen conservative star had quietly become the chosen face of a new conservative era. Not by luck, but by design. And right when that theory started dying down, someone found the texts. The receipts leak. The receipts leak became the wildfire moment. The point when suspicion turned into spectacle. It started with a late-night Telegram post from an anonymous account claiming to have screenshots of deleted messages between Erika Kirk and a high-profile conservative donor. At first, no one believed it. Then the images surfaced. Timestamped text showing what appeared to be Erika discussing damage control, referencing both Joe Rogan's comments and the Trump situation. The phrasing was vague, vague, but that's what made it powerful. The messages were just believable enough to ignite chaos. Within hours, the screenshots flooded Twitter, and hashtags like #KirkReceipts and #ErikaLeaks trended across platforms. Some users zoomed in, pointing out the identical punctuation and emojis Erika had used in past verified posts. A smoking gun, they claimed. Others said the leak was AI generated, a digital deepfake designed to discredit her. Either way, the receipts took on a life of their own. Influencers dissected every word. Podcasters ran emergency live streams titled Erika Kirk's Texts, The Final Proof, and news outlets danced carefully around the story without verifying it. What made it even more suspicious was what happened next. Turning Point USA quietly wiped its internal Slack history for the week of the alleged messages. That was all the internet needed to declare. Cover-up confirmed, and just like that, the receipts became mythology. Unverified, untraceable, but unstoppable. To the public, it no longer mattered if the screenshots were real. The reaction was, in a digital culture where perception is proof, the receipts leak didn't need to be factual, it just needed to feel true. And for millions watching the saga unfold, it did. But when Erika went silent, that's when the real storm hit. The silent strategy. The silent strategy wasn't an accident. It was a masterclass in digital power control. When the scandal reached fever pitch, leaks flying, Rogan trending, Turning Point USA under fire, Erika Kirk made a choice no one expected. She said nothing. No denial, no tearful interview, no setting the record straight, just silence. And that silence hit louder than any statement could have. For weeks, she posted only Bible verses and black and white photos, each one feeding the theory that she was either quietly guilty or brilliantly composed. PR experts called it crisis minimalism. To her critics, it was deflection. To her supporters, it was discipline. And to the internet, it was maddening. Every day she refused to speak, the mystery grew, and with it, her power. Podcasters called her the Ice Queen of the Right, comparing her strategy to Melania Trump's post-scandal vanishing act. Emotionless, unreadable, untouchable. But here's the kicker. It worked. While the media burned itself out trying to fill her silence with speculation, Erika re-emerged weeks later stronger, more composed, and perfectly rebranded. No longer the grieving widow or the accused manipulator, but the woman who rose above the noise. The silent strategy had transformed her into something more potent than innocent. It made her untouchable, because in a world that thrives on reaction, the only thing more powerful than speaking your truth is refusing to give anyone theirs. But then, Candace found something even more explosive, something written by Erika herself. The Secret Note. The Secret Note was the kind of plot twist that felt straight out of a political thriller. Mysterious handwriting, hidden timing, and just enough ambiguity to make the internet lose its collective mind. It all started when Candace Owens allegedly mentioned a personal document found among Charlie Kirk's belongings, a folded note tucked into one of his leather journals. Nobody knew if it was real or rumor, but the moment the words Erika's handwriting were whispered, the narrative flipped upside down. The supposed note contained a line that read, "I did what I had to do. You'll understand someday." Just 12 words, but enough to ignite every gossip engine from Twitter threads to YouTube breakdowns. Screenshots claiming to show fragments of the note began circulating. The slanted cursive, the half-torn paper, even a faint lipstick mark in the corner. People zoomed in on every pixel, analyzing ink flow, paper texture, and shadow depth like they were solving the Zodiac case. Theories ranged from tragic farewell to veiled confession. Some claimed it was written before Charlie's death. Others swore it was planted afterward to manipulate the story. The mystery grew even deeper when Erika's representatives refused to confirm or deny its existence, calling it a cruel invasion of privacy. And in that silence, the note became something bigger. Not a message, but a mirror reflecting what everyone wanted to believe. But what really made the secret note legendary wasn't the paper itself. It was the chaos it unleashed. Candace Owens, who'd first hinted at its existence, later claimed she'd seen only a copy, not the original. A statement that somehow made the internet even more suspicious. Joe Rogan mentioned it too, calling it the kind of thing that keeps you up at night. That one line alone sent fans spiraling into overdrive. Reddit users began comparing handwriting samples from Erika's old campaign flyers. TikTok detectives slowed down footage of her signing books, and one Twitter thread even claimed the ink formula matched a limited edition Mont Blanc Charlie had once gifted her. The note stopped being evidence. It became mythology. Whether it was a real confession, an emotional goodbye, or just another cleverly timed distraction, the secret note captured what this entire saga had become: a war between proof and perception. Because in the world of politics meets celebrity gossip, it doesn't matter what's written in ink. It's the silence between the lines that tells the real story. Either way, it was enough to make even Rogan go silent for a second. The podcast reunion. The podcast reunion was the event no one saw coming, the kind of twist that turned a fading scandal into front-page drama again. After months of online speculation, Joe Rogan invited Candace Owens back onto the Joe Rogan Experience, their first joint appearance since the Erika Kirk chaos began. The internet went wild before the episode even aired. Fans were certain Rogan was going to press play on the truth, while others expected Candace to drop new receipts live on air. What they got instead was something far more cryptic. The tone was tense but civil, filled with those razor-sharp pauses that say more than words ever could. Candace didn't confirm the infamous secret note, but she didn't deny it either. She hinted that some people in power are rewriting history before our eyes, while Rogan, smirking, replied, "History only gets rewritten when the truth starts to leak." Within minutes, the internet exploded. Clips flooded TikTok, reaction channels posted real-time breakdowns, and even mainstream outlets began spinning headlines like, "Rogan and Owens finally speak, but who are they protecting?" It wasn't a conversation anymore, it was a spectacle. Two media titans tossing gasoline on a rumor they both pretended to walk around. What made the podcast reunion unforgettable wasn't just the chemistry, it was the choreography. Every glance, every smirk, every half-finished sentence felt intentional, as if both Rogan and Owens were playing a game only they knew the rules to. Viewers described it as verbal chess with no checkmate, while body language analysts called it a conversation loaded with secrets. Rogan's questions were sharp, but his restraint was sharper. He let Candace talk just long enough to incriminate someone, not Erika directly, but the shadowy system around her. The moment he leaned in and said, "So you're saying grief has layers," became the quote of the night. Vague, haunting, and instantly viral. Fans dissected it like prophecy. Some thought he was referring to Erika's emotional complexity. Others believed he was hinting at deeper manipulation behind the scenes. Either way, the reunion didn't answer questions. It rewrote them. It reignited every theory, every whisper, every thread connecting power, grief, and opportunism. And when the cameras stopped rolling, one truth remained. Rogan and Owens had done it again. Not by revealing facts, but by mastering the modern formula for influence. Say less, imply more, and let the audience write the story for you. And that's when this story crossed from conspiracy to cultural earthquake. The fallout. The fallout was the inevitable storm, the digital aftershock that hits when the internet has built a story too big to control. Once the podcast reunion ended, the web didn't calm down, it detonated. Within hours, Erika Kirk's name reappeared in trending tabs across every platform, followed by a wave of headlines that blurred fact and fiction beyond recognition. Turning Point USA's social media pages were bombarded with demands for answers, while former staffers started leaking behind-the-scenes stories that sounded half real, half scripted. Candace Owens posted cryptic Bible verses about wolves in faith's clothing. Joe Rogan went silent again, fueling the theory that he'd been pressured to back off. Meanwhile, Erika herself became a ghost. No appearances, no posts, no statements. Every absence became evidence. Every delay became drama. Conspiracy channels dubbed it the Great Vanish, suggesting she'd gone underground or fled for safety. Some swore she was writing a book, others believed she'd struck a deal. It didn't matter which theory you picked, they all made her larger than life. But the real fallout wasn't happening online. It was happening in how people saw power, truth, and influence. The story stopped being about Charlie Kirk or even Erika. It became a reflection of us, an audience addicted to the theater of truth, where silence means guilt, emotion means performance, and every narrative has a villain, a victim, and a viral moment. Erika's image, once a symbol of faith and loyalty, had mutated into a cultural Rorschach test. People saw whatever confirmed their bias. To her supporters, she was the phoenix rising from the ashes of tragedy. To her critics, she was the architect of a perfectly packaged power grab. And somewhere in the middle, Joe Rogan and Candace Owens sat like two modern myth makers, spinning tension into traffic, letting their audience play detective while they quietly collected millions of views. By the time the dust settled, the truth barely mattered. The fallout had rewritten the rules. news. In the new world of political celebrity, the story doesn't end when the facts stop. It ends when the audience moves on. So what do you think? Did Joe Rogan and Candace Owens actually pull back the curtain on Erika Kirk's shocking lies? Or did they just hand the internet its newest obsession? Because right now, this story feels less like breaking news and more like a psychological chess match where everyone's guessing who's holding the next move. Maybe Rogan's silence means strategy. Maybe Owens' fire means frustration. Or maybe it's all part of a show we've been watching without realizing we're the audience and the actors. Either way, this saga's not over. It's just catching its breath before round 2. So here's your cue. Hit the comments and tell me whose side you're on. Are you Team Rogan, Team Owens, or Team Something Doesn't Add Up? Smash that like button if you love a good internet mystery. Subscribe for the next chapter in this wild political gossip crossover and ring that bell, because when the next leak drops, you'll want front row seats before the truth gets edited out.